Hi everyone, just as we're waiting for everyone to log on, I'm just going to do a little bit of an introduction. So my name's Alex, I'm from the Leaders Award team, and welcome to our online engineer interview today, featuring Louise from Network Rail. Just before we get to Louise, I'll run through what's going to happen during the session today. As there are lots of people watching the event, we've muted everybody except for myself and Louise for the whole event, just so there's no interruptions. The first part of the event will be Louise's presentation, which will then be followed by a Q&A section after that. Please feel free to type in your questions at any point using the Q&A facility at the bottom of your screen, or you can use the chat facility as well if you're on Zoom, or if you're on Facebook, use the comment section, and then I will relay these questions over to Louise for her to answer. You can type in your questions at any point during the session as well, just so as soon as we get to the Q&A section, we can get straight into answering as many of your questions as possible. So I'm just going to explain a little bit about what is the Leaders Award competition, if you're coming to this fresh. So its main aim is to inspire young people ages 3 to 19 to look at the world around them and design some solutions to problems, and ultimately design an invention to solve that problem. We provide opportunities for you to meet and interview engineering professionals online, just like we're doing today with Louise, to inspire you to think of ideas and start designing some of your own inventions. To help you as well, we've also got lots of available resources on our website. So after the interview today, please make sure you register for those. Our suggestion is you make this into a weekly challenge, interviewing different engineering professionals online using our facilities, and then looking for a different problem in the world each week that you'd like to solve and design an invention for. Just before we all head back then to school, make sure you choose your favourite invention that you come up with, take this into school to send in your entries, and for our engineering professionals to read and grade. Now, after all that, we're going to pass over to Louise. Hi, Louise. Just going to make sure we can hear you.
Hiya.
Hi, I'm just going to make sure I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, Louise, as well. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic, thank you. I'm just going to also make sure that you can share your screen.
Yep.
I think you should be able to now, and then we can start your videos up.
There we go.
Brilliant, I can see you there. And I think you should be able to share your screen now as well, Louise.
Is that to all panelists, just to check?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if I go for that one. Apologies, taking me a bit of time. So hopefully you can see that.
I can see that, yeah.
Well,
if you just put it full screen, I think, Louise.
Yeah.
And I think we should be able to see it.
There we go.
Perfect. Whenever you're ready, Louise.
Okay, great. I'll start now then. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you all, albeit virtually. This is the new normal, I think, that we're slowly getting used to. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. As Alex said, my name is Louise-Bungay Azman. I work for Network Rail. I'm a structures asset engineer. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about what that role is, what engineering is, what I love about engineering, and to hopefully inspire you into the amazing world that engineering can offer as a potential career. So I first off wanted to start with asking what you think an engineer is. When you think of an engineer, what image comes to mind? You may think of someone who wears high vis, like I am in that photo at the top, or you may think of someone who works in the office or at home at the moment, like I am in that photo at the bottom. It could be someone who spends their time drawing and designing. A drawing we've got there is a drawing that I've reviewed and I've looked at, or someone who builds and constructs, and that's a photo I've taken while I've been on site. The truth is that they're all correct. I do all of these and I'm an engineer. There's such a wide variety of engineering roles out there that no two engineers ever look the same. I could try and list all the jobs that are out there, but I'd probably be here all day, and I'm sure we've all got other things that we want to get on with. It's not just having an engineer within your job title that makes you an engineer. It's the way you look at things and the way you analyze problems. If you're a problem solver, you're an engineer. That's what engineering is. It's just solving problems. How do we cross a river? How do we make sure that the lights come on when I turn the switch? How do we make sure a plane can take off safely? If you like to take on the challenge of solving a problem, then you're an engineer. Engineering is for everyone. There's this misconception that it's something that girls can't do or only certain people can do, but it couldn't be further from the truth. People often ask me how I got into engineering, and my answer is just simply because of my natural curiosity. I've always tried to work out how something works, understand why it's there, question the purpose it serves, look at ways it can be improved. When I was younger, I was always encouraged to follow this curiosity wherever it took me and to learn from what happened, whether that was good or bad. There's quite a few instances where it went bad. This curiosity showed me from quite an early age that engineering was definitely where I needed to go. There aren't that many jobs out there where you get to spend your time working out why something's happened and then how you can improve it. Engineering uses the principles of maths and science to solve the problems and use the creativity along with that as well. I didn't necessarily have the academic ability, particularly in maths, to easily get to where I needed to go. So I had to put in the hard work, but it's definitely been worth it. And luckily I was supported in reaching those goals, not just by my parents, but also by my teachers in school. The question then comes when I say I'm an engineer, why civil engineering? The simple answer is because of my dad. He was a highway civil engineer. And I remember driving along a road when I was younger and he said, I designed this road. That idea of being involved in something that impacts directly on so many people's lives was inspiring. Having an involvement in something that most people just take for granted, but knowing that you've helped change or improve their lives in some way, whether that be big or small, really appealed to me. Civil engineering is all around us, designing and maintaining buildings, ensuring we have clean water when we wash our hands, processing waste safely, solving problems like pollution and flooding. And it's because of civil engineers that most of this stuff goes on unnoticed. And it's not just the day-to-day roles that civil engineers do to support our lives and the infrastructure around us. They're working around the world on so many different other jobs, such as providing emergency shelter and relief during a disaster, or even designing roller coasters. It was this incredibly wide variety of opportunities within civil engineering that attracted me to this specific discipline. I knew that studying civil engineering could literally take me anywhere. And since starting my studies, it's safe to say that I love civil engineering. But truth be told, when I first started on my path to a civil engineer, I had no idea that I could find myself working for Network Rail. I wrongly thought that all they did was look after trains. But what they do couldn't be further from that. Network Rail own and operate over 20,000 miles of track, and the thousands of signals, level crossings, stations and structures that come along with that. There's over 30,000 bridges, tunnels and viaducts across Britain. And that's where my role comes in. I help to look after just a small proportion of those bridges within Wales, as well as other structures such as walls and culverts. My role is incredibly varied. I have responsibility for structures that were built by the Victorians, including the world's oldest railway viaduct, all the way through to those built just last week, constructed in a variety of materials, serving so many different purposes. This means that no day is ever the same. One day I could be out on site looking at ways to fix a problem with a 120-year-old masonry arch, and the next day I could be reviewing a drawing for a new footbridge to be built over the railway, to then be responding to an emergency incident when a lorry's hit a bridge, to then be talking to you guys like I'm doing now. And that's what makes my job so exciting to me. I never know what each day will bring, and I'm continuously having to use my engineering knowledge and experience to make the decisions that allow the railway to run safely. So how did I get to where I am? At GCSE level, I made sure to study the maths and the sciences and followed that through to A level, and that helped me to get a place to university. But before I went to university, I also took part in a year-long work experience, which gave me real-life hands-on experience in engineering and confirmed that it was what I wanted to study. After studying, I went to work for a consultancy for a bit. Consultancies are the engineers that predominantly do the design work, so I got some design experience. And then I moved across to Network Rail and I've started in the role that I'm in now. I'm sure you're wondering how you could become an engineer. You're far too early to be thinking about GCSEs and A-levels, so the answer I can give you is to stay curious. Just ask why, work out how something works, take something apart, making sure you put it back together again. Take risks, accept challenges, learn from your mistakes, but most importantly, have fun. You don't have to study to degree level either, like I did. You can do an engineering apprenticeship, or you can go straight to work and study later. As many different types of engineering are out there, there are just as many ways to become an engineer. Hopefully, in that short little presentation, you've learned a little bit about the wide world of engineering that's out there and a little bit about the work that I do. It's such a fun career that I've had so far. I know that I've got many, many more years left in engineering, and I look forward to what experiences I'm going to get in that time. Thank you very much for your time, and hopefully you've got some questions that I can answer.
Hi Louise, thank you so much for your presentation there. Just to say as well, just like Louise said, if you are watching, if you listening today, could you please post in your questions on the Q&A facility, or if you're on Facebook, put it into the comments section. We've got a question through already, Louise, if you don't mind me asking this one first. So the first one that I would like to ask is, out of all the roles that you listed or said that you do at the moment within your career, what do you think is kind of your most exciting, or the one that you find the most interesting, or your favorite maybe?
Definitely the one I find most interesting is responding to an incident. So it's not the nicest to be dealing with, but when you get that call from control, and who are the ones that kind of to control the signalling and ensure that trains can run safely, when you get that call through from them and you don't necessarily know what they're going to be asking you to do, and you've got to kind of sometimes make really quick judgment calls based on the information that they've given to make sure that either the railway can reopen safely, or if we need to get people out there to carry out works, that they're going to the right place, they're doing the right works, and using your kind of engineering experience to make those decisions. I think that's definitely what I find the most exciting part of the role.
And we've just got a comment here. You mentioned about how things sometimes went a little bit wrong when you started out. Can you elaborate on that and how you kind of learned from that at all?
Yeah, so kind of when I was a kid, I would take things apart and I'd either hurt myself, that was usually what went wrong, I'd give up and get frustrated, or I'd maybe take something apart and I couldn't quite remember how to put it back together, thinking, oh, it's fine, I'll remember, I'll do it, and putting it back together, and it didn't quite work. Me and my brother used to do work together quite a bit, and there'd be some arguments from that, definitely. And then in university, some of the studies, some of the problems that they've set us and the challenges, definitely trying to do some of the calculations, sorry, and when it went wrong, and I'd just get very frustrated with myself. In work, what I found, you get, particularly in the early stages of your career, you get mentored quite a bit. So when you make a mistake, it gets picked up, or there's always someone you can go to and say, oh, I'm not quite sure on this. Can you help me a little bit on this one? And that's how you learn as well, is from other people's experience.
Brilliant. Yeah, so like you said, you have learned a lot in your early career as well, and growing up a lot as well. So the next one we have is, did you like trains when you were younger, or was it just kind of engineering in general that you enjoyed?
Well, so where I lived, there was no trains nearby. I grew up kind of in the middle of the countryside, and I don't think I went on a train until I started my year in industry, when I was commuting into Birmingham. So quite a long time of having no real experience of trains. Obviously I knew they were there, but just never really had an interest in them or a knowledge of them. But definitely since working in Network Rail, I've developed a little bit of a healthy interest in the railway, how it functions, the history of the railway as well.
So yeah, so like you said then, you didn't actually go on a train at all or anything as you were growing up. But
No.
for those listening today, and if they want to get involved with kind of Network Rail or engineering in general, is there any way they can get experience to do that, do you know?
Yep, so there are ways within Network Rail you can do work experience. And then definitely I know kind of consultancies and places like that are always offering work experience. My best advice would be either to go to the companies and see what they've got, or potentially the institutions. So we have the engineering disciplines have their own institutions, which is kind of like a governing body that kind of looks after the role as a whole. And the Institution of Civil Engineers offers work experience. They work with companies to help find people that are interested to get involved and have a look, or just chat to people you know. I was able through my dad to get a placement during school, just a couple of weeks in the summer. He knew someone that was offering something. You'll be amazed how many people are actually wanting to bring people on and offer their experience and pass on their knowledge.
And for those listening today, there might be some kind of young female and budding engineers that are listening. Is this something that's important to you, the increase in kind of female engineers?
Absolutely. The more people of varying age, gender, all sorts that come in, the more experience you get, and the more kind of different ways of thinking that you get from people who've got different life experiences that come in. I'm really thrilled that sometimes I go to a meeting and I'm not the only woman anymore. I'm disappointed when I do go to meetings and I am the only woman, and it's frustrating, but I know that the change is coming, the change is out there, and more girls are coming into engineering, and more boys as well. We need more engineers to come in, so just kind of anyone that comes in is a bonus, really.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like you said, obviously we want more female engineers, but it's that, I think it's that gender balance, isn't it, as well? So it's not like we're saying we don't want male engineers as well. We want both, and a large amount of engineers joining the industry.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned a lot about kind of you work with structures and bridges. But do you have a favourite structure or structure design that you enjoy?
I've got a few. Yeah, as sad as that is to say, I've got a few favourite bridges. Definitely the oldest viaduct, the oldest railway viaduct. Being responsible for that is a massive honour. I've also got a few cast iron bridges, and cast iron is a material that you don't really see many of those structures around anymore, because when it was built at the time, it was seen as this wonder structure. You may know of the Iron Bridge in Shropshire, and kind of it was this amazing material that could come along and help, and it led to the development of more metallic structures such as the steel structures that we see everywhere now. But it's inherently a weak material to be used in a structure, and so to have the responsibility of a couple of structures made out of that is quite an honour, to kind of make sure that they stay safe, they're operating, they're perfectly fine for trains to go over, but also it's this unique material that not many people have an experience with and a knowledge of. And also there's a structure that's it's one of the pictures that I showed. It's a 17-span masonry viaduct that when you stand underneath it and look up, you're just completely dwarfed by. And I always get inspired whenever I go and look at that and just feel so insignificant in terms of the size of the structure, but then also kind of recognising the feats of the Victorian engineers, the pioneering engineers, in how they constructed it. When I think, how would we construct it nowadays? For them to have done it 120 years ago is just amazing.
And at the moment, are you able to do your job at home? Have you been working at home quite a lot within COVID-19?
Yeah, so the office side of work I've been able to do at home, but we're still going out on site. So I'm still out with the contractors, looking at works that need to be done. We're all following procedures. We're all traveling. We used to share a vehicle, but now we have to travel separately, and we're standing our distance. Luckily, our structures are outside, so we can safely be within the 2 meters apart, but outside and not restricted in kind of the PPE that we have to wear. In terms of when we're carrying out works, we've got procedures in place so that if people do have to come into close contact, they've got the right PPE, they know what needs to be worn, we're cleaning, all of that kind of stuff as well.
Has it been harder working from home, or have you enjoyed it, the kind of change?
I've got a 1-year-old, so that made it very interesting to begin with. We find a balance that works though, so we've got there now.
Yeah, I think that could be a big challenge sometimes if you're having meetings or anything, and
she's become a part of the
something
team.
comes up. Yes, I bet as well. I know you mentioned about what made you become an engineer earlier on in your presentation, and you said you weren't always kind of an academic, did you say, as well? So do you think anyone can be an engineer? There's lots of various roles, isn't there, within just Network Rail alone?
Yeah, absolutely, anyone could be an engineer. I was kind of always knew I wanted to do a degree. I wanted to go to university, and for that I needed to have the A levels and the GCSE grades to match that. So that's where I needed the kind of academic ability within the maths and sciences in order to pass the exams, in order to get to university. So I had to put in the extra work there. But there are so many ways to get into a career in engineering that don't necessarily rely on you at 18 having the knowledge and the experience within maths and sciences. You can work and gain that knowledge by osmosis, almost by doing the works, to then come and do the exams at a later date, and you realize, oh, I can get that. I know why I'm doing it, more than just kind of looking at it from a numbers point of view on a exam test.
I know within your roles you discussed about that you look at kind of designs as well. Is designing something that you've done before as well in engineering and is part of your role?
I did previously, before starting at Network Rail, I did a couple of years with a consultancy. And so I did a little bit of design there. Unfortunately, when you kind of start as, not unfortunately, because it's good, when you start as a graduate, you kind of do all sorts of different roles and experiences just so you can get an idea of what it is. So I had a little bit of design experience while I was there, but never the chance to properly get my teeth into a project and claim, oh, I designed that. I've not had that ability. But now in my role, I'm reviewing designs and I can have a say in kind of, oh, I think we need to do it this way or that way. And I can feed into the designs that way rather than having an actual claim to it.
Yeah, because the competition that we run, the Leaders Award competition, if you're an engineer, what would you do, is all about kind of designing their own inventions, which the participants will do. And it's all about drawing their design onto paper. So I think it's a really big part of engineering, isn't it, Louise?
Absolutely. Communication is so important, and design is a form of communication. You can try and explain how a bridge works and how it looks, but if you draw it, everyone knows exactly what you mean. And it's to be able to design and draw something is a very, very important skill to have in engineering. And
then as well, with the competition that we run, they have to think of kind of a theme or a problem. Is problem solving, do you think, really key to engineering?
It's the essence of engineering. That's what an engineer is. I'm sure if you ask anyone, do you like solving any engineer? Do you like solving a problem? Yeah, love it.
Do you have any kind of ideas or kind of themes that the children can think about with their inventions that they're going to make?
Yeah, so you could look at maybe designing a new bridge to cross a railway, could be one, or you could look at maybe you need to put something underneath a railway, so design a tunnel underneath a railway if a bridge is not suitable. You could look at a problem we do have, I mentioned briefly, was vehicles hitting our bridges. So there could be, you could look at ways that you can stop vehicles from doing that, what you could do to kind of tell a driver that their vehicle's too high or that they're driving unsafely or something like that as well could be something.
I think those are some fantastic ideas and some great themes for those participants to think about now. So I think that's some really, really good kind of tips there. So thank you, Louise, for that as well. Have you had to travel about quite a lot with your job across the UK?
Yes, so I look after a certain area of Wales, so the structures within a certain area. That area goes from mid Wales, so near Shrewsbury, all the way down to Newport, and then all the way across to West Wales as well. So it's quite a large area. So some days I can be driving for hours, it feels like, before I get to a bridge that I need to look at. So that can keep me busy, quite a lot going around there. And then also we do kind of meetings with other areas of Network Rail. So I've had meetings in Scotland, in London, in Birmingham, all over. And that's where we do kind of knowledge sharing between the different routes. So I'm in the Wales route, and there's 7 other routes within the UK. So we kind of all equivalents of my role get together, chat about the problems we're having, what solutions we can find, and trying to learn from other people as well.
Great. So just as we're kind of wrapping up a little bit with the questions, I'd just like to end on a nice question. If you'd be able to give any of the participants listening today any kind of tips or advice or something that you've learned along the way that you'd like to share with them.
Don't be afraid to ask why. I'm not too sure your teachers will like me saying that, but that's one of the best ways that you're going to learn, is ask why. If you're not too sure on something, ask why. And if someone can't answer, try and work it out yourself, or try and find someone else that can help. I think that's really key.
Fantastic. I'd just like to say a really big thank you, Louise, for not just that advice, but the whole answering of the questions and the presentation that you delivered as well. Just thank you for taking time out of your day to do that for us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, it's been brilliant. I hope you've enjoyed answering those questions, and thank you those who have been sending in your questions as well. We've also, I'd like to thank everyone for joining. If you've been inspired to take on the Leaders Award competition, please use our resources at leadersaward.com and to help you, and please join us for our upcoming interviews in the coming weeks as well. I think we'll end it there. So thank you again, Louise. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye, everyone.